all these different operations are happening all throughout the country of Afghanistan or wherever you're deployed for that. And basically they say, okay, this mission gets a gunship. And sometimes you're just going out and you're supporting the guys and there's not a whole lot going on. Anthony touched on it really about the noise signature. When we come, our guys know, all right, guys. And then the enemy knows like it's on, like the battlefield just changed. And they learned who we were. And so a lot of times in Afghanistan, nothing would happen because they know what's going to happen. We can see everything. But that means the Americans or partner forces, they get to sleep. When you're out and you're running convoys, you're running missions 24/7, you're on high alert, you are troops in contact, a couple hours of sleep, that's a game changer. And so to be able to provide that for those guys so they can just go, oh, I can breathe for a second. Yeah, there's nothing better.
I'm Steve Murphy, DEA Special Agent retired and now host of the Game of Crimes podcast. If you've seen the Netflix series Narcos, then you know my story. I now bring you stories of heroism and bravery from our law enforcement and military heroes, and occasionally from the criminals that they faced. Welcome to Game of Crimes. Yep, you came back to the right place. This is part 2 of this week's Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. Appreciate you folks coming back so much. Like I said yesterday, can't do any of this without you. Appreciate your support. This week, our guest is Mary Howe, who is an 8-year Air Force veteran who was an aerial gunner in an AC-130U gunship. She's the one shooting those cannons and those grenades and the machine guns down to support our troops on the ground. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, let me just throw 2 names out here. One is Charlie Beckwith. If you don't know who that is, you need to go look it up. And the same with another guy, Paul Howe. That's her grandfather and her dad. True American heroes. Charlie Beckwith created the Delta Force in the U.S. Army. So go check that out. You'll find out what the relationship is. And what we're hearing is the apple doesn't fall from the tree here, because not only did Mary serve in our military, but her brother did as well. Their whole family did. And her mom even is, I think you said, a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
She is. And my mom was in the Army too.
Oh my gosh. So just, a heroic family here that served their country with pride. And it's truly my honor to have these folks on here. So Mary, thank you so much for coming on yesterday. And especially thank you for coming back today. I'm not sure what's wrong with you, but
thank you, Steve. I'm happy to be here. This is incredible.
Well, I got you now, so you can't leave.
Okay.
I'll call your dad.
Don't do that.
Never. So you talked yesterday about you had done a deployment to Afghanistan, and then your next deployment is you're based in Kuwait, but you're flying missions over Iraq, protecting our troops against some of the worst terrorists that have ever walked on the face of this earth, ISIS, and still rates right up there in my book. So on your third deployment, are you back? Where do you go on your third deployment?
Steve, why can't I remember?
I'm sure it's in the big sandbox over there.
Man, they blur together. I can't remember if I did one more to Afghanistan and then my last one was to Iraq again, and I think that's what it was. I did a 4-month trip back to Bagram. I think that was. Oh man, they all blur together.
Yeah, and there's some things that maybe you really don't want to always remember.
Yeah.
If for those of you that don't know, Bagram was the main airfield in Afghanistan for the United States, and you saw what happened when we pulled out of there. Not going political here, but bad decisions were made, and our equipment, and we lost people over there. Mm-hmm. Innocent people were killed, but that's the place she was. I know you guys had when I was over there, they were talking about, I think we call them shot spotters. So that when they would lob mortar rounds into the base, you guys had equipment out in the field that would help locate where the mortars might have been so they could launch missions against them. You remember any of that? No, you don't remember that. Okay.
Maybe.
Nope. So were we stationed anywhere else in Afghanistan? Was it always at Bagram?
It was always at Bagram.
And then same mission, you're going out supporting the troops on the ground. I remember Anthony told us, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Anthony Dyer, who was a former guest here on the show that actually introduced me to Mary. He talked about when the troops had been engaged for such a long time, when they're just fatigued and worn out, and they needed to catch a few hours rest. Did you ever fly any missions where you helped them get some sleep?
100%. Those are the best ones.
Tell us about that. How does that work?
Sometimes I don't know how it works for the more admin side of war. Does that sound crazy? But basically we get these requests, right? All these different operations are happening all throughout the country of Afghanistan or wherever you're deployed for that. And basically they say, okay, this mission gets a gunship. This mission gets X aircraft, those kinds of things. So sometimes, depending on what was going on that day, we would get tasked for whatever operation was going on. And sometimes you're just going out and you're supporting the guys, and there's not a whole lot going on. You know, Anthony touched on it really phenomenally about the noise signature. Like, man, when we come, our guys know, all right, guys, and then the enemy knows, like, it's on, like the battlefield just changed. And so they learned who we were. And so a lot of times in Afghanistan, nothing would happen because they know what's going to happen. We can see everything. But that means the guys on the Americans or partner forces, they get to sleep. When you're out and you're running convoys, you're running missions 24/7, you're on high alert, you are in troops in contact, a couple hours of sleep, man, that's a game changer. And so to be able to provide that for those guys so they can just go, oh, I can breathe for a second. Yeah, there's nothing better.
Wow. I just thought that was so impressive that the enemy hears that and they run, and the good guys hear that and they know help's on the way. Oh,
they know. You ask anyone who's ever had a gunship shoot for them, they know.
Yeah, that's their best friend.
Oh, yeah.
I was a cop. When you're out in the field and you're fighting or you're in a gun battle, whatever it might be, and you hear the sirens coming, there is no better sound.
Yeah.
You know, help's on the way. All right. So, so you do another tour in Afghanistan. Then your last tour, you do a total of 4 tours, is back in Iraq. For your second Iraq tour, was that in Kuwait, or were you in a different air base?
No, we were stationed up north for this one. And so we would fly into country that way. And then again, there's a mix of things with that. Like sometimes there's not guys on the ground and you're doing stuff with curfews, and sometimes there are guys on the ground. Like there's so many different variables. It's a totally different battle than what Afghanistan was for that time period and how we operated.
When you said you're up north, were you in Erbil or where were you over there? Or can you say?
Up in Turkey.
Okay. And what do you mean by flying curfew?
Or the guys on the people on the ground, like they know, okay, they have these curfews set so they don't come out after a certain time period. So if someone's moving, why are you hanging out after curfew kind of thing? Got it. Yeah.
Do you remember when you came home from your last deployment, what year it was?
Steve, I do not. I never really kept track of all. I need to look back, and I have no idea.
Well, when you came back on your last trip, did you get out of the Air Force, or did you stay in for a while?
No, I stayed in for a little bit more. So then I went to Airman Leadership School, ALS. I became a staff sergeant. And then I started, they had just kind of brought on this reserve unit for the gunship community. And what we would do is we would train the new pipeline. So when I talked in the first episode about how you go through this long pipeline that's about 2 years long in total, but then part of it is just learning the aircraft. So what the reserve unit did is they would instruct those students. So that's where I transitioned my career to go over there for my last 2 years of my career.
The original sign-up, was that 4 years?
I did 6.
But you did a total of 8. So the last 2 is reserve?
The last 2, I was in the reserves. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Again, we talked about my math skills yesterday, so
you're good.
You got to give me a minute here to calculate all this. Was it a conscious choice to join the reserves and get out of the active military, or is that that's how it transpires? When you get out, you have to go reserve? No. So for me, it really was, everything was conscious with it. I had this mission on a deployment, one of my last deployment to Afghanistan, and the political nature
was really shifting towards the end of the war in Afghanistan. And anyone that was deployed during this 2013 to 2016, 17 timeframe knows what I'm talking about. And we were on this op. Without getting into it, we were not able to provide fires for people on the ground because of decisions and set protocols by people way above our pay grade downrange. And watching that, I lost my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're seeing it and you can help, you can do something, you're watching it unfold, but because you don't want to go to jail because they'll persecute their own. And seeing that, it broke something in my heart. And so that really changed the trajectory for me.
Does the word Benghazi come into play in this?
I mean, I'm very familiar with that, and I was not there, but I know. I've seen the movie. I've talked to people. It's gut-wrenching.
It is. It's horrific. When I retired from DEA, I took a contract job with with DOD and Office of Military Commissions for the Army. And we were looking at a lot of different things, but that's when ISIS was prevalent, and the Beatles, you heard the reference to the Beatles, who were the four guys that were considered some of the leaders of ISIS and all that. But my partner and I, he was retired DEA also, we were told to attend this meeting in Tampa, Special Operations Command. And we go in there for a couple of days, and it's all military attorneys. And listening to them talk about what their responsibilities were, the decisions they were to make on ongoing battlefield affairs when our troops are taking fire, and they're proud of the fact that they were able to make a decision in 20 minutes. If you've never been under fire, 20 minutes is like a lifetime, ladies and gentlemen. It just, a minute seems like an hour. It left me with my jaw on the table. And it's legally, they have to do this because our laws have become so controverted, because I'm trying to clean up my language here, that our people are being attacked and they're not able to respond until an attorney says it's okay, and their butt's sitting in Tampa or their butt's sitting somewhere and behind the lines where it's safe. It just made absolutely no sense to me. And I don't know if that's changed now. I just don't know, but it was shocking.
You can't play chess with human life and treat people like pawns.
Right.
You can't. And when I saw that happening in front of my eyes, again, that purpose, and I look back and I go, okay, that was that. And you can't hold resentment. You have to move on and go, well, I learned what I stand for and what I want to do. And you keep going. Just so people are listening, you can get really stuck in a rut if you start going down that spiral of, oh, everyone's bad and this is terrible. Like, no, you have to go, okay, that was not great, but I'm going to keep going and doing what I can do to put some light in the world.
There you go. Well said. Very well said. Because it's depressing to go through that and to hear that and just know that lives are in danger and lives are being wasted because of some stupid political decision. Okay.
I get it.
When you decided to leave the military, did you have any idea what you wanted to do at that point?
No. So that's kind of, I was like, well, let me go into the reserves. Like, I can still instruct. I can still, give it forward for the new guys coming in, and it takes you out of that deployment cycle because you're an instructor, reserve billet. Yeah, you can deploy, but it's a whole different, that's a whole different tangent. So anyway, I was like, well, let me look and see what I want to do. And I was really interested in something in healthcare. I looked a little bit at psychology. That was like my first real big peak of interest. And it just didn't make sense at the time for the dynamics of the schooling for that and timelines and everything going on with like life. So I was like, okay, nursing, let me do that. And I started looking at programs, and I really liked that nursing offered the opportunity. There's so many specialties. You can do anything within nursing, there's something for you. So I was like, well, let me do that. So I started going to nursing school. I was doing the instructor, gunner stuff too. I was doing everything kind of part-time because my program hadn't picked up to full-time yet when I began. And then once it got to that point, and I was pregnant with my daughter, that happened. And so had my daughter in nursing school. And that was kind of like where I saw, okay, my life's changing. Like it's the military chapter is closing. And so I left, and it was great. Again, the military, love it. Best thing I ever did. But then that's when my path shifted into healthcare. And I went to school, did that for 2 years. I got my associate's degree first, worked, and then COVID hit. So that was quite a stressful time as a new nurse. I worked in the neonatal intensive care unit, so the NICU. My daughter was a year old at the time, and I was working night shift, and I did not have the capacity for it. I quickly realized too, I left one really high stress job and I went after another really high stress job. And that was like a pattern I picked up on later when I started really taking a look at myself and, self-improvement, those kinds of things. But I saw the burnout coming, and then COVID, and they were floating us to adult units as NICU nurses. And I was like, I just wasn't ready as a new nurse. It was so much, and nothing prepares you for patient situations until you're in them. And again, that capacity, it just wasn't there yet. I love people, and then seeing it up front, like nobody wants to be in a hospital, and you just do the best you can. But I was taking too much of that emotional state of it home. So I started looking for a different job. And I found a place in a medical spa. So medical aesthetics, that profession, like more of that skincare, Botox, lasers, IV therapy, wellness, that realm. And so I did that for about 3 years. So while I did that, I was going to school. I was doing a bachelor's to master's bridge program to get my family nurse practitioner, my master's degree. And that's what I have now. I know I skipped a lot in that, but just to get people where I'm at.
That's where you are. What is a family nurse practitioner? What does that do?
So it is what we refer to as a mid-level provider. There are medical doctors, and then this can get a little tricky and confusing because there's a lot of state regulation that will influence your scope of practice, right? So as a nurse, I have this doctrine, and I can do all these different things that fall into that scope. As a nurse practitioner, it's a little bit wider. I have more autonomy. And in Florida, starting out, you have to work under a medical doctor, but I can take patients, and I can, under that doctor, prescribe medication, diagnose, order labs, all of those things. And then it's state by state. Some states don't require that, and a nurse practitioner can go and operate with all of those things. There's, again, doctrine for all of this that governs that. So it's that mid-level of being a provider. Can
you prescribe medications?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So it's an awesome field.
It is. And you hear about it frequently. I'm just not familiar with it. I usually, when I go through my little surgeries here, not only do you see the doctor, but you see the physician's assistant. And then once the operation is done, that's all he sees, the PA. How does this fall in that between the doctor, the PA, the nurse practitioner? It sounds like you're more on line with the doctor.
I think that's where it goes back to state. So like in Florida, I would say I fall more in like that PA realm, and everyone's great. Like I love medical doctors. I love physician's assistants, nurse practitioners. Like we all just have it's different paths to take care of people and different levels of what you can do under certain guidance. So kind of under like that PA similarities, because you still need a medical doctor that's your supervisor. You have to do an agreement with them. You have certain stipulations of what you can and can't do. Like if I can't just go administer anesthesia, that's not in my scope of practice as a family nurse practitioner, but I can, under the right conditions, prescribe an antibiotic or something like that.
Right. Where did that interest in the medical field come from?
I really wanted to help people. And that was always like That's the thread I always followed my whole life. And I was like, I don't really know much about healthcare. Like at this time, I had never been in a hospital really. Like I'm very fortunate and blessed with my health. And so I was like, I don't really know anything, but I know I get to help people. So I'm going to just go do it. And that's what really led me to it. And it's funny because like I don't do well with blood. And so I had to overcome that. I definitely hit the floor a time or so during my training. And I get that from my mom.
That's not good.
But hey, once you get used to it, you're like, okay, I got this. It's all up here.
Yeah. That's funny though. Well, it's like law enforcement. A lot of people, the first time they see an autopsy, they're down on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's not anything you want to, it's not anything that I want to go see multiple times.
Right.
For me, once was enough. It's hilarious. How did your faith, what role did your faith play in all of this?
My faith journey is so important to me. So I guess let me take it back. I grew up Methodist and we went to church every Sunday. When I was maybe 13 or 14, I was kind of in that rebellious stage was starting to kick in. And I remember going to Sunday school and just asking the question, like, where did God come from? The person in charge, they probably just didn't know how to answer me, but they really were like, he was just always there, like the shoulder and like I can't believe you're asking that. And I was like, okay, I'm really turned off by this. And I completely shut this door. I was like, I don't believe, and hindsight, I was listening to a podcast with Matthew McConaughey and he brought up a quote about looking forward, it's a mystery, but looking back, it's a science. And so now I can look back and go, okay, I see. But I walked in darkness for so long and you don't recognize it till you're in the light. And so I just was like self-reliant. I don't need anybody, anything. I wasn't awake within myself. And then maybe in my late 20s, God started putting me around these amazing Christian women at work. That was like the first kind of thing. I was like, okay, so I started just opening that door back up, going back to church. And I started the Bible recap. And if anyone's heard of this, it's a book that is a 365-day book that's every day to read the Bible chronologically. So I started that. So almost every day, because it took me 2 years to finish. I was in nurse practitioner school at the time, but I really just started that communication line and working on like the vertical relationship for me. Like I'm a Christian, I love God, and I think faith is so important. And I see all the things that he did. Like I needed to experience all of the trials, tribulations of my life, because that's how I learn, feeling the lesson, my understanding. And now that I'm going back, I'm really like, I go to church every Sunday. I'm in an awesome Bible study weekly that I go to. And it's shaped how I walk through life now, because I see everyone as people, and it shaped my mindset and caring and loving and being compassionate and kind, like the way Jesus walked the earth. Like that's how we're supposed to model it. And I think that's important for me.
Well, when you were in Afghanistan and Kuwait, I mean, were you praying?
No.
Looking
back though, I know that God is everywhere, and I know it's hard to see. One of the things that helped me with reading the entire Bible, because I've finished it, is when you read the entire thing, there's a theme, and it's suffering. Suffering is promised in this life. And the sooner you can have a healthy relationship with that concept, the better, because it's brought up multiple times. There's so much. I mean, this could go off again on another tangent with religion. And again, these are just my beliefs, but suffering is going to happen. And so if you can figure out how to have a healthy relationship, you don't have to understand everything, because there are tragedies that happen in this life, of course. But if you can learn how to navigate and wrestle with that, you're going to be better off.
I agree. I'm not a believer in coincidence or luck. I think that everything happens for a reason. I think the good man upstairs has everything plotted out for us. People question about, like, you were in life or death situations for a good 6 years over there. Same in law enforcement. I've never been a tough guy. I don't pretend to be a tough guy, but I've been in a lot of shootings. I've been in a lot of dangerous situations just like you and survived. It's not because of me. It's because of the man upstairs. I mean, I love life. I don't want to die. But the truth is, when he decides it's time for us to go, you and I can be talking here and I may fall out of my chair dead from a heart attack. And I don't mean to sound flippant by saying that. It's just what I believe. And I think you believe the same thing. And I'm so happy that you had an awakening there, especially after your military career, the things that you experienced when you're back in your walk of faith where you are. I think that's just so extremely important. Some of our listeners here will dog me out for talking religion. I don't care. That's what I believe, and it's my podcast. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's even if you can't, there's lessons within this that I think anyone listening can take away. Like, but looking back, like for me, I just had to hit rock bottom in my life, and God saves, God rescues. And I'm telling you, it's, again, walking in darkness makes the light so much brighter.
There is a group out of Nashville, Tennessee called Aerial Recovery. And we've had the founder on here and her husband both on separate interviews. They work with military and first responders that suffer from PTSD, from anxiety, depression, and so forth. They have a section that rescues victims of human trafficking around the world. And then they also have a third part that responds to natural disasters, not only in the United States, but around the world as well. The founder is Brittany, and hearing you speak sounds exactly like her. I was honored to be the keynote speaker at their fundraiser back in October of last year in Nashville. And the theme of it was the light, bringing the light out of the darkness. And it just, to hear you say, that's why I say you sound just like her when you're talking. And she's got challenges. She came from a very poor family in South Carolina, and through God's help, she was able to become financially successful. She now owns an island in the British Virgin Islands where they take the folks that need some assistance with PTSD. They take them down there, and they've got a whole program set up. It's just very motivating to hear that, just like her, you're out here doing everything you can to help your family man. Is being a nurse practitioner a business? Absolutely. We all have to eat. That's the reason I do the podcast, is so that the Murphys don't have to eat cat food in retirement. I'm not making a lot of money off of it, but it is self-sufficient. So just encouraging to talk to folks like you that, I mean, here's a lady, everybody whose lineage just reeks of heroism and patriotism here in our country. And she's carrying on that legacy in her own family. It's going to be really interesting to see what your daughter does as she grows up.
Yeah.
Not that there'll be any pressure, but
I know.
Damn.
No, that's phenomenal that Brittany, what they're doing, like, God bless. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
It is. It is. Very motivational people, very humble. I mean, her husband's a former, is he a Ranger? Yeah, Army Ranger. Got a lot of former military guys in there, but they've got a lot of law enforcement involved with it. Just a phenomenal organization, Aerial Recovery, which has nothing to do with today's conversation other than, you remind me of Brittany very much. So good stuff. So what your career now, how long have you been a nurse practitioner?
Looking at my calendar, my computer, not even a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been a nurse since 2020.
Okay. And I'm going to guess you have a thriving practice, or is it still growing?
No. So right now I'm in a transition phase right now as we're talking, but I do work for a local nonprofit called Gulf Coast Sexual Assault Program, and I am a sexual assault nurse examiner. So what we do is we go out when it's an on-call position. So there's quite a few of us, we take call, and whenever an event occurs, we go in, do the assessment for the individual, provide that trauma-informed care, and then we're also collecting evidence for law enforcement and working to be that connecting piece. And so I've been doing that. I started last year, and I absolutely, I feel God called to that. I feel like I wanted to initially start like maybe a nonprofit for I worked with females primarily through the medical spa setting. So that's where my heart has really been. And I was like, well, maybe I could start a nonprofit. When I saw this opportunity, I just felt God say, like, Mary, there's people in your community that need your help, and I've prepared you for that.
That's such an important position, because after a lady has gone through sexual abuse, I think the last thing they probably want to do is talk to a man.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes with law enforcement. You know, I feel like they have tried. There's women that come out from the LEO side, but we do what we can so they don't have to tell their story multiple times.
Yes.
But it's hard.
It is. I can't imagine. When I was a uniformed police officer, I did have to answer some calls like that, but they were few, thank goodness. And it's awkward for the police officers as well, the male officers. But again, it's all coming back to helping people.
Absolutely.
I've noticed that when you and I first started talking and Anthony introduced us, I started following you on social media, and you're pretty active on there.
I am.
And what is your goal with that?
So I started this when I was in nurse practitioner. We kind of alluded to, like, all of these things are interconnected with my faith, and went through some tough times when I was in nurse practitioner school. And I ended up having to go live with my parents. I got divorced, lost my job like within a week of each other. And so I had to live with my parents during school. So I was able to finish because I didn't have a place to live. And I was like, okay, well, I got to start clinicals. I got to get this degree so I can provide for my daughter. And there's nothing like laying in your high school bedroom at 30 years old, looking up at the ceiling going, what the hell did I do to get here? And what part did I participate in? Because it was no longer like the job, the relationship, the external, the world. It was me. And so I really had to look in the mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. And so I was like, okay, I need to correct. And I also saw I never developed that internal framework in leadership. And I was able to recognize that and go, okay, I have all these awesome tools from the military. Like, let me start applying it to inside to develop my own purpose. And so that's what I did. But when that happened, the people that reached out to me were like, they were all my veteran friends. They're like, Mary, you okay? Like, we got you if you need anything. And I was like, just that tiny little thread, like my heart. I was like, oh, but it goes back to that community and camaraderie of, we always got each other. When stuff hits the fan, we always got each other. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, let me start this blog. I had this idea. So I had all these different categories. I wanted to do faces of the military community, which is veteran, active duty, military spouses, and kind of share a snapshot in the blog format because nobody does blogs anymore. I was like, let me try this. And I like writing. So share their story, and I wanted to highlight their key to resilience at the end. And then I did a wellness. And then initially it started off as a mindset, and it's shifted since. So we all relate to people differently. So I wanted to bring that resiliency factor in because we can pull what resiliency actually means to each of us. And I wanted to show, look at these awesome people that are out here crushing it, because there's such an identity crisis, and the things that come with transitions for veterans and military families, it can be challenging. And I wanted to just show, like, here are these awesome people who are saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to believe in myself. Here's where I struggled, but I'm going to keep going. And I wanted to just pay it forward in any way I could. So that's how it started for the social media. And so I started the website, and it's kind of transitioned where I have shifted gears into more of it's called unfinished business, which is more about mindset. And I think that's where my calling is now, because I really want to hone in my writing and get this developed. And my goal is to go back into the faces of the military community more. But it's a huge undertaking, and it's just been challenging with work to make sure it all, because I do it in my free time. I do it for fun. And so it's shifted since then. That's kind of, yeah.
Well, as we do, or as I do with all of our guests, is, before we actually do the interview, if you're on social media, I start following you. And I told you this in a couple of messages we've had back and forth, is what I saw is a lot of motivational, positive comments and thinking to just brighten up the day. I mean, and you're not talking about, you're not going to read War and Peace. She's not going to be on there for an hour talking. She's just putting these messages out for you that I found motivational.
Oh, thank you.
And it's good to hear, especially from people who have been through the experiences that you've been through. Cause it's not like, I mean, some people, quite honestly, they've never done crap in their lives. They've never faced danger. They've never seen evil, but they want to offer their advice based on, I don't know what experience, which to me, I find comical. If you're going to take advice from somebody, first of all, is look and see what their background is, what experiences what is it in their life that would make you want to listen to a person like that? And here's a lady that did 8 years in the military. She came from a patriotic family, a service-oriented family, and she's just trying to carry it forward. So, and I'm going to give you all her social media sites here. I'll give it to you audio, and on the video, you'll see a slide come up here with all that at the end of the interview here. But when you talked about faces of the military community, now what is that? And this is on you've got a website, which is MaryCatherineHowe.com. So what is that?
So that will drive you now to my Substacks. That's where I'm loading everything. So everything for my writing is primarily going to be there. The faces of the military, excuse me, that's going to be, again, those veterans, active duty, mil spouses, people I've honestly found through just the tight-knit community that is the military community. And I love the small business entrepreneur. Like, they're so cool, what they do and their spirit. And I just felt that. And I needed, I think, to see and watch that these other people could do it, to know that we all got this. And I just wanted to pay it forward for their platform, their resiliency, spread a little bit more light into it. And it's all about supporting, especially the military spouses. There's Love and Lettering by Katie's one awesome, phenomenal woman. And her husband's been featured too. But the creative mindset and the light that they bring into the world, as well as the community around being a military spouse and the struggles and, finding that camaraderie. So I just wanted to share that light.
And I'm looking at your website here as you're talking here, and it looks like you're promoting some of these small entrepreneurs to try to help bring awareness to what they're doing too, right?
Absolutely. I do have some affiliations like Tyler, again, who painted this gunship. I am just blown away. Again, it goes back to that identity crisis, especially on the veteran side. We think because we were even a police officer or a plumber or whatever our job is in the military, we think that's our identity, and it's not. And so you can do anything, but you have to learn yourself first. And I just want to, why not support these awesome men and women who are already paying it forward through how they live for our country? It doesn't get any better than that.
I love it. It's looking out for each other.
Yes.
It's a lot of people will contact me or my partner Javier, my former DEA partner, and we started being partners in 1991, and we're still partners to this day. We've got 2 little LLCs that we do. But people will contact us mostly because of the Narco series on Netflix and talk about books, or talk about somebody's contacting them about doing a TV series and things like that. And the way I look at it is the same way you look at it. This is brothers and sisters helping brothers and sisters.
Yep.
Because just like you said yesterday, not only do you have your biological family, you have your work family. And when you go through life and death situations repeatedly and you survive, having a partner is closer really than having a brother or sister almost.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're stepping up to help others just kind of goes along with your family name, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just, I feel called to it.
I can't imagine how proud your mom and dad must be.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I'm trying to make her blush here, but we'll see if it happens. But I'm serious. And she's not, I don't see you sitting here tooting your own horn and saying I'm better than you or anything else. You've dealt with life circumstances, not all good. You mentioned a divorce. I've been through a divorce. It's one of the most traumatic things anybody can ever go through in life. You want something to drag you down. That's what that will do. And my wife went through the same thing. So we've both been through that. But the bottom line is you're not letting your past dictate your future.
You can't. And that's where we mess up. We ruminate. we don't reflect. Like reflection is a discipline. And like I had to have, it was really hard during this transition with nurse practitioner school, like, because I had to say, okay, I was not able as a mom to be the mom I needed to be to support my daughter during that time. And like, I had to bust butt to drive back and forth to Florida, have my daughter come during summers to Texas. And then like, there was so much shame wrapped up in that situation. And there still is threads of it and then you have to decide when you're looking back at that, do I go, woe is me, I'm a victim? Or do I say, I did it, it's all good, I learned from it, here's the path I'm gonna go now? And it goes back to that mindset of it, because again, we're all faced hard things. And then within healthcare, like I've seen every single walk of life, people who are homeless and have nothing, who haven't showered in weeks. And that will change your perspective really quick on how you look at this life, all the way to affluent individuals. And so I just learned at the core of it, like how important people are. And you just got to be loving and kind. And it's hard. It's not like I just wake up. I have to sometimes really focus in on that.
Well, you hit on a couple of things that are right out of the Bible. I love the saying from Martin Luther King, keep hope alive. And of all the gifts that are out there, love is the most important. So
absolutely
easy to sit on here on a podcast and talk about things like that, but you're seeing a lady who's carrying through with this.
Yeah.
She's just not talking the talk. She's actually walking the walk, what's a corny saying, isn't it? Get a little cliche here sometimes.
That's one of my core values, is integrity. Like and that's why it was hard to look at myself, because I realized I failed myself on that. And I shouldn't say failed, but I neglected that area of my life. But once I saw it, I was like, okay, well, now I know what to do. Life's not going to get me. Like I control is like a whole topic that we could get into, but I'm going to at least control my mindset, my attitude, and my beliefs.
Well, and cool. The cool part of this too is you went back and re-examined your life. You recognized the mistakes you made, but you learned from those mistakes so that you don't make the same ones over again. That's just one of the basic principles of leadership.
Yes. Very
encouraging, very encouraging. So I want to ask you this question. What do you foresee in the future of Mary Catherine Howe? And if you had unlimited funding, what would be your primary objective with that?
It's so funny. I've been thinking about this since that's a hard one. It's really not, though. Unlimited funding, anything where I can help people. That's the core. Like, does it represent, am I carrying the mission forward that God has called on me? And am I doing something to glorify God? That's number one. That's a question I have to ask myself every day. And so as long as it's that, I would love to eventually get this to be something where I can do more Faces of the Military community, bringing that really spark to life. And it's all about community. That's what it is. I would like to write a book that helps people. And then I would like to get more involved doing anything with the community. Like, again, what I do through nursing and what I've seen that people in our own towns are dealing with, if I can do anything to help, that's what I would use the money for. Like, I don't have this grandeur plan or anything, but as long as it's something, and that's part of my faith, I have to let go of the outcome. You have to. So as long as I can glorify God and bring good to people, that's what I would do.
Excellent. And I mean, I could just foresee, I don't know that either one of us will ever have unlimited funding because I keep playing the lottery and I never win. But no, I don't play it that often, but just keep hope alive. Yeah. But I can see how if you were in that position, it's going to continue to evolve because you're willing and open to recommendations, to learning as you go, seeing new opportunities, and being led by the man upstairs.
Yep.
It's number one. Oh, that's good stuff. One thing I wanted to mention, and this was like pulling teeth to get this little piece of information out of here. I asked Mary about any awards or recognition, special recognition she received, and she wouldn't give me anything. And I think I just dogged her long enough that she finally admitted that in 2014 or 2015, during her Air Force career, she was recognized as the Professional Airman of the Year. Of the year for all the airmen that are out there. Holy cow.
At Hurlburt, yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. Where else do they have the air crews? Right there in Hurlburt. Was there a specific act that led to that?
Man, you know what? I had good people looking out for me who wrote some bullets and packages. That's all it was.
You didn't see anybody. You didn't see her taking any credit for that, did you? She's put it back on the team. Well, that's
Always.
The way it's supposed to be.
Always.
Oh, I mean, everything you're saying is motivation. This has been such a hoot having you here on the show. And I gave you this warning before we started, but I want to leave you or ask you one more. If you have any words of wisdom or advice for anyone that's considering a life in the military or as a first responder, anything that you want to leave us with here towards the end of our time together. Words of wisdom.
This one, there's so many. I think do it. If you feel called to it and it's for the right reasons to help others, go for it. Understand that there's so much to learn. Be teachable, be coachable, and make sure when you're going into these things, it's important to have that internal anchor to your own purpose in life, but recognizing the mission and remembering your why. That's something that you can lose sight of once you get into these dynamic environments where there's a lot of training and a lot of thinking, and you do start getting exhausted and you can start burning the candle at both ends. And that happens. I think remembering that. Another thing that's really helped me that I still have to work on implementing is this saying that we have in the Air Force is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So if you're just starting out in any career field, with whether it be law enforcement or military, just remember that, because we can sometimes get so excited and start going. But if you're slow and methodical, that speed will catch up. But you want to make sure you have that foundation, whatever your job is, to execute. That's the advice that's coming up right now.
Yeah. And there are so many external forces out there that will try and tear you down. You got to keep thinking back. What was your original purpose? What was your original objective? That smooth is fast is a technique that I learned on the firing range. I used to shoot a lot of competition, but I also would bring in trainers, and it was a former Navy SEAL that we had hired to give my guys some tactical training. Didn't know about your dad, but this was probably when he was still in the military. And he taught us and he demonstrated. He showed us smooth is fast. If you're jerky and you're trying to do things, but if you just practice and come out smooth and you're sending around down range as you're extending your arms, it's faster than anything you can do. And Anthony was delivering that same message here. So I can tell you guys had the same instructors.
Love it. And then one thing I just want to say too with that is, oh man, I'm going to lose it. It goes back to mindset. When you're getting frustrated, make sure you're also evaluating your emotional ties to things, because there's always something to learn. There's always something to take away, because you don't want to become that person that becomes that old salty, we call them, salty crew members, salty dogs, those kinds of things. Always look and go, where's my emotional regulation at? And then what can I learn? And then step forward quickly.
Excellent. Can you think of anything I left out that you wanted to tell us today?
Steve, I don't think so. You did such an awesome job. This was an awesome conversation. I'm so thrilled to be here, man.
Well, it's a true honor to have you on here, and I just can't say that enough. I know I'm getting very repetitive. I've mentioned this to Anthony, and I want to mention it to you as well. I heard this on a Christian radio station recently, and the message that he was getting across, he said, hey, you woke up today, that means God's not finished with you yet.
Amen. So
things are looking up.
Always.
So everybody, listen, do me a favor. Go check out Mary Catherine Howe here. And her last name is spelled Howe. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Substack, and LinkedIn, all at Mary Catherine Howe. And for those of y'all that are watching on YouTube, you're seeing a screen now on here. And her website is marycatherinehowe.com. You want some motivation? Go check these out. I mean, just start following her on social media, because I get an uplift just from listening to her. She's she comes across very positive. And it's, there's nothing wrong with looking at a pretty girl on social media, right? Because especially when you're old fart. I'm looking here, and one of the things that came across a while ago when we were talking to Mary is that I've got kids older than her. So everybody go check her out. Mary, thank you once again for coming on the Game of Crimes. True honor to have you on here.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Excellent. And everybody, thank you so much for coming back every week to listen to the show, to listen to these awesome guests. This is not a show about Murph. Sometimes I do start telling my stories and I go off on tangents and can't help myself. But the story is about these heroes, the men and women who are willing to risk their own lives to protect you and me. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. I'll continue to always say this. There's no higher calling in life than risking your own life for your fellow man, your fellow women out there. So, again, if you haven't checked us out on Patreon, that's patreon.com/Game of Crimes. Come on over and give us a listen. See what you think about it. You can listen to the first 5 minutes for free. In the meantime, everybody, as I say every week, God bless you all. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next week.